Welcome to another episode of Investing in IP with David. Today we have a very special guest with us. This gentleman has been making products for over 30 years and has won numerous awards on his products. He is the creator of the famous game Bop It, which lived in all our households growing up and which has sold over 30 million units worldwide. Please help me welcome Dan Klitsner. How's it going, Dan?
Hi, David. Great to be here.
Oh, for sure. And I'm excited. This is like I was telling you kind of off camera here, like the creme de la creme. You think about just, I don't know, people that just had was a part of my childhood in a lot of different ways with your inventions, your products that you have came out with. And now to get a chance to kind of speak with you on the side after all these years and for you to obviously still be relevant and doing great things. I'm excited for this interview. And I guess it seemed like your story as I was kind of preparing for the interview was different than others. I interviewed a few different people who are patent owners and things like that. And typically what you get is you get someone who's, for whatever reason, maybe it was a market crash where they had to quit the job, where they was terminated from the job, or they just came out, they had an aha moment and came out with an invention that they kind of put everything else that they were doing aside and kind of focus all in on becoming an entrepreneur and a business owner as they're trying to get their product to market. It seems like kind of your story was different in that just being an industrial designer from the beginning. I'm not sure if you kind of thought you would be focusing in on a toy market, but it seems like kind of what you started out doing or wanted to do, at least with the industrial designer, you're still kind of doing that, obviously with the toy market, but it wasn't any major shifts or anything that happened that caused you to kind of become this prolific inventor or creator.
Well, thanks. Yeah, you've summarized it well. A lot of inventors, the word inventor is also an interesting word. It means different things in different industries are different. What is it? Is it the person that had the idea? Is it the person that engineered it? Is the person that, and the answer to all those is yes. It can be any of those things or usually a group of people. So my background is I'm an industrial designer, love industrial design, went to school, wasn't sure what I wanted to do at first, thought it might be engineering, discovered that industrial design is this kind of field of, working on ideas, ergonomics, the aesthetics, the outside a lot of a product and the way it works with people, not so much the engineering of it. And yet it mixes the two. You have to sort of have a mind for all of that. But my goal starting out was I wanted to create beautiful objects that would be in your home. I wanted to, I love drawing. I love creating things, making these with my hands. So that's why I started out. I started doing freelance work, whatever work I could get. Designed a lot of liquor bottles, as a matter of fact, originally, the Woodford Reserve and this, where is it? This Clorox bottle, which is pretty well known. That was just me as an industrial designer. I wasn't inventing those things. I was hired by, as a consultant to be a designer. So I love doing that. And one of the things that I was designing, I'd get hired to do things from are you hearing that noise, by the way?
It seems like it's a little bit of noise, and I'm not sure if it'll come up on the interview, but I hear it a little bit.
You could edit out.
Yeah.
It's sorry, we can edit this out, but
no worries.
I just realized I told you they're doing some work on our kitchen, and I don't know why. I've never heard it be that loud. They must have the doors open, but anyway. Okay, well, hopefully they'll cut out, but so working as an industrial designer, I took on clients, I just said yes to everything. So I was designing remote controls, TV remotes. I was designing toys. I was drawing like interiors, airplane seats. I just did anything. And that's the kind of thing where you get hired for a fee, to do the design. But while I was doing that, and especially when I was designing toys for a company called Discovery Toys, I had heard that in the toy industry, it was relatively easy, or not easy, but just it was, they were open to people submitting ideas to them that were done through, as your idea, and you didn't need a patent on it. You just needed to show them, pitch your ideas to these toy companies. Sorry about that.
No, no worries, no worries. So you were saying, go ahead.
Yeah. So, I just said that I had heard that in the toy industry was different than other industries, and that they were open to you pitching ideas without a patent, without it really being finished, just like a concept, because that industry just sort of evolved that way, differently than other industries, where some industries, like, yes, if you have a patent, if you have this, maybe they'll look at your idea, maybe you'll have to just do it on your own, as you've interviewed other people that had an idea and they went through that process. But the difference is, in the toy industry, it's been set up so that most of the major companies, will look at your ideas just to do them, even if it's not patented. It needs to be patentable, meaning it can't be an idea that's been done before. Many people think, oh, I've never seen this, and they show it to a company, and the company says, yeah, we're kind of familiar with that. And if a person is kind of novice, they're like, oh, they're going to steal my idea, and they're going to, it gets very, the reason, it's not for everyone, meaning you have to have a lot of trust and you have to work with the right companies, but it's very different than getting a patent and then trying to, produce a product from your patent. So I don't know if that explains why the toy industry is kind of special in that way, because they need so many new ideas that they're willing to sort of let creative people pitch them things, even if they don't have a patent.
Oh yeah, and that's totally different from what you typically see from an industry standpoint, especially just even as a patent attorney. Typically, you would
Right.
it seems like the company will want some type of at least patent pending before they start to kind of engage in serious conversations. Now, do you know if that's? I guess I had a few questions regarding that. Is that kind of still done like that today, as far as
It depends. Like I said, in the toy industry, not really. They just, if they trust you after a while, you build a relationship where trust is more powerful than the legal documents, because no matter what you sign, as or what patent you have, or there's almost always someone who will try to get around it or do something. And what's more important is the relationship with the right companies that are, that you build over time, where that they don't want to take advantage of you, because if you're someone who has they want a long-term relationship with, then you're building a partnership.
right?
And so, but it takes finding the right companies. And that's very unique in the toy industry, I think, because other industries much more are about coming there with a patent. It doesn't mean if you do have a patent, it's fine. It can be even better, if you pitch a toy company an idea and you have a published patent. But more important is that it's patentable, that it's not infringing on someone else's patent. That's really probably the main thing.
And I think that's an interesting point and a good point that you brought up. I was explaining to a prospective client over the phone towards the end of last week, that just because you have something that's patentable doesn't necessarily mean that you can make it or use it or sell it without infringing someone else's patents. So I think that's a distinction that people need to be aware of. That's
Right.
done through some type of freedom to operate opinion, where the attorney is going to look at what's out there and kind of give you some type of likelihood of not being sued based on what's out there compared to
Right.
your product, which is a totally different analysis compared to just seeing if something is patentable.
Right.
So,
Well, let me ask you, how long this is something for everyone to know. How long does it take to get a patent if you have an idea?
it varies. I have seen some that I have drafted come in a year, which is very fast, and that depends on how crowded that art unit is at the USPTO. But I've seen ones go 3 years
Right.
from the time of
So,
filing. Yep.
right. And what happens if you come out with a product in the meantime that says patent pending? Does it really stop people from ripping it off?
No, not really, not really.
Yeah.
I think that maybe doesn't help. Now obviously, once you get the issue, guess once you get the issue patent, then those same people, you may have to send a cease and desist letter or something
Right.
that kind of keep those off. But yeah, I probably would agree with you on that. That maybe doesn't
It
keep the
doesn't do as much good. So I'm just making why the toy industry has evolved not to require patents is because if the idea is good, it's to more of an advantage to come out with it right away, because a lot of times it's related to timing, or timing isn't everything. Hey, timing is everything. It's not everything,
yeah.
but it's kind of like at least 25% of everything. Like meaning you could have a lot of other things go right, but if you are too late in the market, it doesn't matter if you have a patent. So why a lot of people in hindsight will say, "Oh, you should have had a patent on that. You should have this." I said, you play the long game in this industry, and you know that you're going to miss some things or wish you had a patent on some things, but you don't know if by coming out with it soon enough, you might have captured the market, in a way that you wouldn't if you waited 3 years. So that's probably the most difficult thing. I've had it work both ways, where I wish I had had a strong patent on something, and other times it was good that we just got it out there.
And that's interesting because I know, which we'll kind of get off into detail a little later with the game Bop It. I think someone told you, oh, maybe it's going to have a shelf life of 3 years. So, when you're talking about, something having a patent pending or whatnot, what is a typical game? What can you expect a typical game in your industry to, I guess, be relevant before it kind of maybe dies off, or is something else that people are interested in?
Yeah, maybe 3 years would be amazing these days. Usually
Really?
it's one year. It used to be about 3 years, and then the cycle has gotten shorter and shorter. And once in a while, you'll hit on something that gets a couple years. But boy, today most things are in and out quickly. Even though we dream of having another thing like a Bop It or Perplexus or these other games I've had, even the Simon games that I've done, the new versions of Simon, those versions only last maybe 2 years. And so all that work you're doing and everything, you have to know you're going to have to, in the toy industry, it's not like you get a patent on something that's used forever. Bop It was extremely rare,
That's what
you
it
know,
sounds.
but at the time I was young enough and just starting out that I thought, what do you mean? This is a great game. Why would it only last for 3 years? And it surprised everyone that it broke the rule, and it just kept, sort of never went away. But when it did start to go away, I kind of kept intervening with new versions. And so I kind of had a vested interest in keeping it going. So that's why maybe I, have helped keep it going. And, but it just also just happens to be an iconic game that, people didn't want it to have it disappear all the way. So
Right.
that's just the mark of a game. It's also, you know, in the invention business of anything, I think it's the idea that there's a space for it that's not occupied by anything else. And that will make, then that space, it's as if that space always was there and there was nothing in it. And then something comes and now that gets its foothold, and now forevermore, maybe that's what happened with Bop It. It just sort of hit the right in between of a game that was simple and easy and electronic. And it was the first one that was truly tactile in 3 dimensions. Most things were about pushing buttons and clicking, but not about, so it activated this thing that sort of gave it its own personality and its own identity. Often new inventions are just sort of an improvement or a variation on something. And those might, they don't make a big splash, but sometimes those might be just for a year, but other times that could be a permanent improvement. You never know. But that's very different. Most inventions are sort of like some problem that was solved. Toys are not, I like to say that most inventors solve problems. Toy inventors create them. Like
Huh.
your job is to create a problem, an entertaining problem for others to solve. If you think about it, right? You're not solving someone's problem. You're just saying, here's entertainment. But to be entertaining, you want a challenge, you want this. So in a way, you're kind of creating problems. That's that's the opposite of most inventors.
That's a great way to put it. I guess I hadn't thought about it like that, but that is a great way to put it. Like you said, in terms of being entertained and wanting something challenging to do or have to solve. And I guess that's kind of how you go about it compared to, traditional way of
Right.
have this
It's like a
problem.
movie, right?
Yep.
Like a movie isn't solving your problem, it's creating entertainment, and you want, some are hits and some are not. Why is it a hit? It's a hit when it entertains you best, and it's a hit when it's something you haven't seen before, when it's something new. That those are if it's just sort of like a sequel or a thing, people get tired of that. So I like to think of it the same way. It's like you wrote an original screenplay that got well produced, well executed. There's a lot of things in toy invention beyond the idea that make it successful or not.
Oh, that makes perfect sense. So then because it seems like you go through like Bop It, for example, where you have the Bop It Extreme, you have the Bop It button, you go through all these iterations. So is it normal in the technology or in the space in the industry to try to get a patent on every iteration? Or is it just, hey, let's try to make this original patent broad enough to the point where it's going to cover these different iterations so that we don't have to file every time we're looking to, I guess,
Mhm.
update the product or provide a new feature?
Is the intellectual property um, important to cover all of those versions? Or you're saying when you first do a patent on an invention or a toy invention, how broad is that patent? You mean,
Right, right. Yep. So with Bop It, and I actually looked up the patent for it. So you have Bop It, which is it has a patent to it, and then you have like the claims that are pretty much defining the scope of protection. Do you typically have to work with the attorney when you go to say Bop It Extreme to file a new patent on that invention, or does the attorney say, hey, well, based on the patent we have for Bop It, that's going to cover, at least in this case, Bop It Extreme?
I don't. Well, another thing in this industry, I have only filed for a couple of patents
Really?
personally. What happens is you pitch an idea to a to prospective toy company, as I said, as long as it's patentable, then they evaluate, and there's so few ideas that they do that you'd go broke trying to patent everything. I mean, you have to be very prolific, or the way I've done it is I'm trying to be prolific. Someone might just have one idea and they go, this is the best idea in the world, and that's all they ever do, and that's all they ever want to, their goal is to get that made. That's a different approach. I've done thousands and thousands of ideas over the last 30 years, and I enjoy doing it, and I enjoy pitching them. And often it's just a matter of time to find the right company at the right time, with the right needs, with the right price, with the right mark. It's a lot of lining up these rights in
Yep.
order to try to kind of like fishing, hook. Oh, I got someone to take that idea that I believed in, I knew was great. But it means most important is all those relationships that you build over the years, so that you
Yep.
know which company to pitch which idea to at the right time. There's so much more than just getting lucky and showing, like, people say, oh, everyone's going to love this idea. It's like, everyone doesn't love anything.
Uh-huh.
It's what your audience is the hardest thing, defining your audience. And most people, when they have an idea, we're kind of self-absorbed. All of us, we go, oh, everyone's going to love this.
Yep.
And um, I'm jumping around a bit, but I have a quote that I read in a fortune cookie that I thought was hilarious. It said, ideas are like children. There are none so wonderful as our own. Right.
That's
And it's
very true.
basically right. Like my kid, everyone brags about their kids, and their kid is the most important thing to them. Of course, they should be. But when it comes to ideas, you feel this attachment to them like it's your baby. People say, oh, it's my baby. It may be, but it's not other people's baby. And
Right.
they're gonna say, oh yeah, you got a cute kid, but they're not gonna, it's not their kid. So when you fall in love with your idea, you got to realize, if you want everyone else to fall in love with it, are they going to fall in love with your kid? It's like you're asking a lot of people to think exactly like you. So the marketing, all these issues about how to get your idea to the right company, the right audience, are things that, I had to discover over many years. Just maybe I got lucky with a few ideas of finding the right company immediately. And then others took years, like Hyperdash, very successful game, took 10 or 12 years after Bop It, when I thought it was great idea, and it turned out it was great. It just wasn't the right time for it. So,
Now,
it's really a long-term journey.
and that's interesting, and I think that's maybe just a good point just for our creations, in terms of the timing of it. I think maybe Nikolai Tesla or kind of back in the 1900s, started to kind of do some things around the EV. But at that point in time, you just had gasoline powered vehicles kind of getting going, and people
Right.
didn't have the infrastructure or the stomach to
Hmm.
try to kind of figure out this whole electric vehicle stuff. So that kind of got put on the back burner for 100 years or so, and now all of a sudden it's the
Yeah,
right time for whatever reason.
that's
Today,
right.
there's the early 1900s.
It-
So I think that's a good point about time.
and discovering. So I have this little acronym I use called "Your idea won't sell till everything is right," RITE, and I just sort of use it as a checkpoint for yourself to say, I know but let's pretend that those RITE are like four legs of a table. Do I say it? And you've got, what is that?
I'm not sure if you hit something on your end in terms of balloons.
That was hilarious. I put
Yeah,
my
no,
fingers up.
I think it's
Maybe there's
maybe
some
due to
weird,
the movement. Huh, that's interesting.
I want to do that again. I have no idea. That was pretty funny. Guess it's a party. So these four, let's see if it'll happen again. These four legs of the table um, are.
There
Oh,
you go.
look,
There you
it
go.
must
There
be a
you go.
gesture. We've discovered something.
Yeah, no, that's interesting. I've never discovered that.
Whoa. Okay, I'm gonna put my hands down now. Isn't that great? Don't know
Yeah,
how that happened.
the balloon gesture.
Someone's hacked in. But so those four legs are relationship, idea, timing, and execution. Right. When is your idea right? And so the relationship being the most important. It's the first letter, right? If you don't have all those relationships, doesn't matter how good your idea is, you don't know, you're not pitching it to the right company. So you research on who, and often people think they know who wants their idea, but they really haven't done their research on, is that a company that ever even looks at outside ideas? Don't force your idea onto someone. I know you got to do this. I know people they just haven't really researched whether it's a company that wants to look at ideas or is reputable. My rule is never, ever pitch an idea to a company where you're the first, where they haven't already licensed ideas from other people.
That
Don't
makes
be the first, right?
perfect sense.
Yeah. And so that's my first lesson is relationships. Idea is the second, but is your idea really as unique as you think it is? Have you researched? Oh, I've never seen anything like it. How far have you looked? As a patent attorney,
Yep.
there's so much stuff that you could do a whole show on
A ton of
amazing ideas that never made it to market because, right? So that's the idea part. And then it's how big is that idea? The timing is the T, but you only know timing if you have good enough relationships to ask those people, is it a good time to pitch this? Should I wait till next year? Did you already do a product sort of like this? Like there's so much about timing you can control. But why did it take 10 years for me to sell Hyperdash? Maybe I could have analyzed that. I don't know. But it's also a reminder that don't give up. It could just be the timing. And you could be too early. Often people are too early more than too late. And then E is execution. And execution is, it's a word to me, RITE. It means you can have everything right, the right company, the right time, the right idea, but you just didn't execute it quite right. Like it was, if it was a Bop It, maybe I made it flat instead of three-dimensional and it just didn't take off. And then it was almost there, had a twist and a pull, but it was something that sat on a table instead of a thing you held in your hand. And then that becomes the difference. And, you'll drive you crazy because maybe later someone comes out with something that succeeds. You go, I had that idea. And then you usually go, did you really have the exact idea or you had something very similar? And you realize, and so the only reason that's useful to inventors is you have to imagine that you may have RITE, you may have all those things, but are they as strong as they need to be? What could you do to make the relationship stronger, the idea stronger, the timing better, the execution? Try 10 different versions of your product. Don't just stop. This is my idea, right? So if you look statistically at how many ideas you come up with actually eventually sell, it's a combination of all those things, and they all are hard work. And you it's the fun of it, but it takes a lot of energy and time. So that's my sort of beyond. None of those are really about the patent. You could say idea under the eye of idea. That definitely says if you have a strong patent, that makes that leg of the table stronger. Just be, as I said, that the product needs to sit on this table of these 4 strong legs, and the bigger and stronger that table is, the better your idea has a chance. So if you think I've got a 3-legged table because I don't have any idea about the timing, then you need to get that 4th leg sturdy. So I find it a great way for people to reflect on, maybe you have 10 ideas, which of them is the strongest table, so that you spend your time on the one that has the biggest chance of success.
No, and that's interesting, and I love that looking at it in that way, as far as right, and making sure each one of those legs are strong as it needs to be, to kind of give yourself more opportunity and success. And I guess how would you maybe kind of reconcile that with the whole thing? Because it seems like at the end you're saying, hey, okay, you may have 10 ideas, and which one is right, so you can maybe sort of focus more so in on that one. How would you kind of look at that compared to someone who was saying, hey, it's a numbers game, and not maybe kind of saying it too simplistically, as far as, hey, just kind of put out and something is going to stick at some point. Just come up with as much stuff as possible, and something is going to stick at that point. Because it seems like you're saying, hey, don't do that, because maybe you're not giving the attention to detail you need into each particular invention, or you maybe not looking the right way. But I guess, how do you kind of reconcile things with people who look at it from that perspective?
It's a great question. Great, great sort of thing to ask yourself. Is it about numbers game? Is it about, being more analytical of a specific invention? And the answer to all these things is yes. Unfortunately, they can all be true. There's no one way to do it. And meaning you could, if you have a lot of great relationships and they're open to looking at rough ideas, you could just spray them with tons and tons of ideas. But you better be careful if you do too much with the same, at some point they stop. It's kind of like if you get a bunch of spam, you're just going to stop reading all those. So I think, like anything, you gotta be a little more discerning, because no matter who you're pitching to, they're expecting you, to be a little bit of a filter of which is the best idea for them to see. If you will get, it's a big part of the process in ideation is pitching. When you pitch an idea, or you're forced to pitch it in a short amount of time, that really makes you clear on, do I know how to pitch this? And do I have it defined in one sentence what this is and why it's going to be successful? Do I have a demo that makes people want it? Did I do a video that's really compelling? The act of pitching something really clarifies in your own mind, is this ready? Is it right? So but on the other hand, there are people that have sold ideas. They have one idea, one sketch, they get it in front of the right person at the right time, needle in a haystack, boom, hey, we like this idea. It happens, but, and there's nothing wrong with it. It just means over time, if you want to be a professional inventor and have the highest odds, there's no one I know that hasn't gone through what I do, which is just working very hard at all the relationships, trying to find it. You think you have a great idea. Usually it's because you understand what that company wants. After you've built a relationship with a company, usually they'll provide, hey, here's kind of a wish list of what we think we're looking for, very vaguely. So you're able to zero in on what they say they want. But I've also seen it that people ignore that entirely, show them something completely out of the blue, and they love it. So that's the fun part and the hard part. There is no magic real formula. When I do the RITE, it's simply a way to help provide structure. When you have even if you have one idea that you think is super strong, make it even stronger. But it's also, it'll get stronger while you're pitching it. As you pitch it and you get rejected from someone, the next rule is really take that feedback to heart, even if it's wrong. Like, don't usually who you pitch to is someone who's giving you direct research on what the perception is. And maybe you'll find, boy, I didn't really sell this one point that was so important. Next time I'll improve it. So a lot of that RITE will get stronger the more you do it. And then, so it is for, you have one big idea, then really analyze it yourself. You have, and improve it. You have 10 big ideas. Then of course you can use it to pick which of those tables is the strongest. You know, but again, no guarantees. It's part of what makes it fun.
Right. No, I definitely understand that. And I guess kind of moving along to the whole pitching aspect of it. Obviously, I consider you a guru at kind of pitching and kind of things that you've done over the years with the products, having to pitch it, as well as kind of being on the other side and acting as judges for different competitions. What are some keys to pitching that maybe I guess the audience could take away as they're maybe looking to kind of develop and bring their products or their inventions to market or whatnot?
Boy, I don't know. I've learned, I feel I'm not as good at pitching as I would like to be often. And when I do a competition called the Young Inventor Challenge with this group of kids that we have pitching ideas in Chicago every year, I always learned more from them. When we require them to do a 3-minute video and do this thing, and I'm like, wow, they are schooling me. I mean, they're just so fresh and so good. So maybe the first thing I'd say is the authenticity, the authentic, be like in one sense, like a child that has this complete, honest, authentic love of an excitement, right? Number one, not contrived, but like you probably do love your idea. So let it go, but temper it. It's like, make sure you also are asking enough questions so that the person doesn't feel like they're just being pitched at, that you're engaging them, or your first, like, typical marketing kind of things, explaining, where it fits for them. Hey, I know, making sure they know you understand their business and why you think this is important to them or why it's going to capture a certain market. So often people get too absorbed in their idea that they don't really listen very well. They just pitch. Pitching is listening. It's interactive. You're pitching, you're making sure you invite a question, and then, make sure they know you heard it and understand it and don't get defensive. That the other thing is, most people are kind of defensive when they pitch an idea if somebody rejects it. Thank you. That's a great point. Let me think about it. And if you're good, maybe my best asset is making sure people know I've heard them, and then sort of, hey, it's the yes and, they say with that you do in improv. Someone makes a suggestion, you don't say no, that won't work. You go, yeah, well, if we did that might do this. And then even if you eventually don't use it, you just have to make sure people feel right, they're interacting with you in a pitch. So that's my best advice, right? Is don't and enjoy it. Make sure you, and know it may feel like you have one shot, but usually you have many shots at an idea. So relax and be there and enjoy it and learn from people as you pitch.
Oh, that's good. I definitely like that, especially with the yes and, to see like you're letting them know that you're taking their suggestions or questions into consideration as opposed to just flat out rejecting.
Yeah, you're the editor, right? Like to say, I say you're your own editor. You get to decide at the end of the day, do I incorporate that or not? But so many ideas are bad ideas, but they may stimulate something in you that actually is the difference. So you don't want to dismiss stuff, right away.
No, that's good. That's nice. That's nice. So then, kind of going off into the Bop It, getting off to Bop It, you originally was making this as a remote, and then kind of things just kind of turned into something different. Is that true?
Yes. Originally, I was working on as a designer. I said some of my part-time was consulting for a TV. Well, it's a company called Memorex, which used to do audio tape and things, and they got into doing electronics, and they were designing remote controls for TVs, and they hired me to design them. And I probably have, well, That's what I was looking for. I have a few of them. They were very typical, slick looking. I did very high end industrial design, space age stuff. And because one of my other clients was a toy company, and I had started to pitch ideas to toy companies on the side, sort of my day job was, being paid as a designer for different companies. And my side job was trying to pitch my ideas. So I didn't just rely on my ideas for income, which is the other most important advice. Don't quit your day job. And so but because of my day job, I was sort of like, maybe there's an idea for TV remotes for kids. So I started to design crazy remotes that did things that looked differently, that would be silly for a kid to put on their coffee table or just have in their hand. I just thought, why would remotes always look like serious adult things? So that was my big idea. And one of the ideas was this. It's a remote control shaped like a slice of pizza. And you can see the volume and the buttons, and you still press the buttons, but I thought it was silly that this piece of pizza would be sitting on your table. And what's that piece of pizza doing? Oh, it's my remote control, and haha. And then the other idea was, or there were a few other ideas, and one of them was this hammer, this little foam core thing you see here, I said, what if the big change in my whole career was thinking, watch the kid, not the toy, or watch the player, not the game. And that is this concept that if most successful products, or many of them, if you watch the people, they're smiling, they're laughing, they're moving, what is that person doing? The goal of the product is to make them do that. It isn't that the product is really the hero, it's the person. So the idea of, well, what happens when someone's doing a TV remote? They're doing this, right? There's literally no movement whatsoever. So the natural thing was, how about a remote that creates the most movement? And so might as well bang, to change channels, bang this on the table, channel up, bang, bang, bang. Had a second knob, channel down, bang, 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 right? Channel up, channel down. And then to be physical about the volume was a twist knob, right? Volume up, volume down. And then all you really need, you don't need anything else on a remote besides volume, channel change, right? And on off. So bop, twist, pull were channel change, volume, on off. And that was called the channel bopper. So I thought, that's it. This is the coolest TV remote. All the kids are going to want it. And I put some sounds in it and thought it would be kind of like a hybrid of a toy meets a TV remote. So they didn't like it. The company that I pitched it to, did the product line of these TV remotes, including the pizza. And I always think, if I didn't have the pizza, they needed three things in the line. They did a couch potato, a football. There's actually you would like a football shaped TV remote, and the pizza. And if it wasn't for it, I thought maybe I could have talked them into this, crazy hammer remote. I was like, I should have pitched them that harder. But of course, it was lucky that they didn't, because eventually, if they had, it would have just been a TV remote, and Bop It never would have happened. Wow. So it was just that it intrigued me. And with this concept of how can that toy make the kid move more, came about when another company called me asking for ideas, because this is the relationship part, right? I had a relationship with another company that would call and say, hey, Tiger Electronics called and said, we need some new ideas for handheld electronic games. They're really slumping. And I just happened to have this mock-up still from the TV remote that failed. And I thought, I wonder if this could be a handheld electronic game. Right? If that company never called me, Bop It also never would have happened. So that was relationship, right? Relationship. So that prompted me to sort of look at, that's the opposite of what's happening with, they're thinking an LCD game, one of these little games, they're just thinking of some probably small innovation. I'm like, what if you take the game and you're banging it on a table and it's a bigger idea? And it wasn't quite a fit for that, with a screen on it. So eventually that led me to think about, well, maybe it doesn't have a screen. What if it's just audio? What if it's like the game Simon? What if it's this? So all these iterations, and then trying different things, mocking them up with foam core and video and sound. Eventually, came down to a game that I think the biggest change was, would it really be fun if a game told you to do one thing at a time and you just did it? Not three things or four things or memory. A lot of people, when they hear Bop It, they go, oh, it's like Simon. The game, like Simon Says. And I kind of politely go, oh yeah, it's just like Simon, because I don't want to sit there and get into a long discussion.
Yeah,
But
sure.
right, that's kind of like saying, that I don't know, pizza and hamburgers are the same because they're both food. I don't know. It's just sort of an analogy that doesn't. They're totally different. I said, well, the very big difference in what we talked about at the beginning about what space did it occupy was that Simon was a very techy electronic game with lights that was no voice, just follow the pattern, one hand, boop, 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 boop. Right. It's really a fantastic game, but it was lights, pattern, memory, flat. Bop It was audio command, no memory, one thing at a time, 3-dimensional, physical, no lights in your hand. Like they couldn't be, when you think about defining them as handheld versus this, right? So that's when you say, why did it succeed? Somehow that broke through, like, wow, this is a different experience, very different. But it started out with me thinking it would be more like Simon. And the invention part was sort of through pitching, hearing feedback, kind of like it wasn't quite there. That's what causes you to jump to a what if, and that what if won't happen if you're so determined that your idea, it's a TV remote and that's my idea and I'm not changing that, right? So the whole point of the story is, I mean, you can just come up with something, but often it's, if you think back to that evolution, none of Bop It never would have happened if I didn't have a lot of relationships and I wasn't listening.
Yeah.
And I wasn't thinking, and understanding what a good game is and animate the kid and all those little ingredients when I go back just matter, be aware.
No, wow. And as you're talking and explaining that process, I'm kind of looking at the writing, kind of fitting each thing into the different bucket, which that's interesting. So then it goes on and kind of sells like crazy. Is that something that, and obviously, you don't think of the product selling 30 million units worldwide, especially like you said, if you have a shelf life of maybe a year or so, maybe a couple of years if you're lucky,
Yeah.
to just kind of blow up the way it did. That I do you think you're like very surprised at that, or were you like, oh
Yeah. Of course, I was surprised. I was extremely, couldn't believe it. I know that. So that the first one, when it came out, right, looks like this.
Yep.
So you can see they're basically, you understand that it's the same product when you see them together, but clear. This has two bops, right? This has the two bops. This has the yellow twist. This has the yellow, it has a pull. So they're very different, but they're obviously related. Well, that execution was lucky that, right? There's a designer, is a friend, great, very talented. I was very lucky. This guy named Bob Welch, who was the internal designer at Parker Brothers when it came in. And he luckily was the exact, talk about the right guy, the right person to take this concept, had his own thoughts about what to do with it. And then, the team that's internal at a company makes all the difference. So that was never would have happened if it wasn't for someone internally that took my idea and made it the way that Hasbro could sell it. So then having it, Parker Brothers, which was part of Hasbro. So having the luck of it, after building all these relationships, getting it into the right company that had the marketing power to make it sell and be able to do it. That's the part that you can have a great idea and just be with a small company and it just doesn't have the marketing power to do that. Huh. So most of the big toy companies have that ability, but it's, they have hundreds of new products and very few of them do what a Bop It does. So it's not that it's just the idea, it's just a lot of skill and hitting it just right. And so that's, Did I imagine it? No, but I dreamed about it,
Yeah, for sure.
right? I
For
dreamed like any inventor. I dreamed of one of my ideas is going to be, and part of that dream was going back to my childhood, playing with games and toys like Mousetrap or, things like that, or Connect Four, or some more like Perfection. I don't know if you know these games. I love mechanical games
Same here.
that were three-dimensional. And I remember seeing the box and seeing Parker Brothers or Milton Bradley on the box and having this really um, like a warm, sort of a happy feeling, like those games represented hanging out with friends and family and good just time, card games, all those kind of things.
Yeah.
So for me to have a game with that company, it's kind of like if you were a football player, like, and you made it to play with your idol,
Yeah.
like, and you were on the same field with them. It felt like that. Like, how did I get so lucky
Yeah.
that I found that I now have a game that has that company behind it that I grew up admiring, and so I love that people were going to create memories with these games that I created, like I did. And when they were older, this is 30 years ago, 25 years ago, I was thinking this will be so cool if I help create memories like I have. And that's what's happened. I'd say the most satisfying thing is on, here we are 25, 30 years later, and on TikTok and Instagram, all these things, there's just like hundreds of memes and spoofs and silly stuff about Bop It. It's like part of pop culture.
Right.
That to me is even more crazy than the fact that the product got made and it sold well.
Right. No, and that's I mean, I definitely agree with you when you have that thing that kind of stands the test of time and people are talking about it 20, 30 years later. That's when you know you have made something that just, I don't know, just gonna go down in the record books for sure. So then I guess as an athlete, and I kind of would make this analogous to an athlete who maybe just came off a big game or whatever the case may be, and now, or a big season, and now it's like, okay, what's the follow-up season like, or the follow-up game like? Did you feel like that pressure of, okay, I made something that was earth-shattering, so okay, how can I follow that up? Because again, you still came up with some pretty successful games, like you said, Hyperdash and Perplexes after the creation of Bop It. Did you have that in the back of your head, like, okay, I have to top this, or was it just like, no, we're going to continue to do what we always done and go about it
I
that
think
way?
it just got me excited that it was possible.
Oh,
I don't think I just made me like, how much more encouraging could it be to know that, for a few years before that, striking out, but I did have a few products before that. That's how I built the relationships that were, good little singles or something. The company did it. I got some money. I knew it was possible. So I didn't give up, but having a product like this that just blew up beyond my wildest dreams enabled me, then I could make money back on the royalties so that I could afford to keep trying other stuff, so I didn't just like, I'm quitting and going to the beach. It's like, to me, I love doing what I do.
right.
And all I could think of was, great, now I can hire someone to help. I could do this, I can maybe do a little bit, take a few more chances. I can take on a little less consulting work so that I have more time to do more inventions. So really what it changed in my mind was giving me more bandwidth personally.
And I would imagine that you were kind of full time, kind of on your own at this point, as opposed to working with for anybody, or because I know you said earlier on you didn't quit your day job and you were kind of doing.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, my day job was a freelancer, so meaning I was just hitting going out to all the different clients trying to get work, or they would call for design consulting. So, it's hourly. You either are too busy or not busy enough, or, it's really hard to freelance and make money. So you're always worried about your next, and just the whole management of that, client management. But I love doing it. I didn't want to leave it entirely. So for
Right.
quite a while, I kept these consulting jobs, and but then eventually I just got too many ideas stacked up that I wanted to pursue, and I was making enough revenue from the existing ones that I could afford to do it, but I was really kind of sad to let it go. I missed that
Yeah.
whole side of things.
Yeah, no, that's so is it typical like from a structure standpoint, is it typical for just okay, you're gonna license or a company's gonna license the ideal from you or whatnot and you get paid on royalties, or is it a situation where you can just kind of sell outright to them? I'm assuming that that would maybe happen if the product is successful as opposed to kind of still kind of going through the gauntlet. So I guess how are those deals typically structured uh from at least the toy perspective with companies?
Right. Well, I think it can happen in a lot of different ways. Historically, there's stories, I believe that G.I. Joe, the person who had the idea, sold it outright to Hasbro or whoever, I think it was Hasbro or Kenner. And of course, they always regretted it because they but they made a lot. I think at the time they sold it for something like $100,000. This is, 40 years ago. So it's not like they got a bad deal. If it turned out not to be a hit, it would have been a great deal.
Right.
So, that I think that it's all about the, how people do it is different. But the most typical way today, if you're kind of on the circuit, as I would say, I know a lot of other inventors like me who are kind of have come to the same point where they've had enough success that they're invited by most toy companies to pitch. They spend, toy companies will spend the majority of their time on maybe 90% of their time or 75% on the known inventors that have had hits before.
Makes sense.
Inviting us to things, making sure it's not a very big group. Maybe there's 100 at the most, in the world that are sort of in that stupid enough to keep trying to do this their whole life. But you do get invited and you do, have a little inside information. It still means your idea has to be great. It's not any easier to sell in an idea just because they know who you are and you had a Bop It or a success. The idea has to stand on its own. So it's hard. What's easier is that the flow and how you do a deal. But the deals are typically, if a company likes your concept enough, after maybe a 30-day grace period, you sort of bug them and say, hey, if you want to hold that idea and have me not show it to a bunch of your competitors, if you want to create an exclusive, you do an option, kind of like if someone was selling a movie script, you get it. An option is a very simple agreement that says, for the next 30 or 60 days, we're going to pay you, $5,000 to hold this idea. And if we decide not to do the idea, you can keep the money. If we decide to go forward with the idea, that money will be credited towards a future royalty.
Gotcha.
So then, right. So that's sort of a very typical way that a lot of licensing works. They're licensing the idea. You then have to, during that process, they might check to see, is this patentable? Is there IP? Has it been done before? Because they're sort of taking a chance.
Yep.
Then at the end of that period, they either say no thanks, which happens most of the time. And then or they say we like it and we want to license it from you. And then the licensing agreement would be more like a typical advance that's based on sort of a potentially 25% of the first year's revenue that you might make, which is a whole, who knows, but there'll be sort of a calculation you try to make. But then it's still going to be another year or two before that product ever hits the market.
Yeah.
So you've got to imagine, when you're in this business of selling ideas, how long it takes to actually make, if you ever do make a royalty, which is then the royalties, the advance is deducted from your royalty. So if you were going to make $5,000 in royalties, but you've already been paid $10,000 up front, you don't make money until it exceeds the $10,000. That advance you get is against the royalties you're going to get. So
Right.
You really need a big enough hit that it sort of overcomes your advance money. And most inventors survive sort of on those options and advances by pitching enough ideas to get a little bit of money coming in that allows you to sort of tread water until you find a big hit, and then you make that. So that's you're going to hear this same explanation from almost any professional toy inventor is about that same model. However, because me and I have two partners and we have two associates that we also do some of the development work and programming and coding. So if there is a product that a toy company said, okay, we're going to do this, we'll often get hired back and paid as consultants on the development separately. So that's sort of another way people, if they have engineering or background, sometimes instead of it just being a license agreement, they also work out a little bit of a development contract so that you can, help develop the product so that it succeeds. Often we're the best ones to do that. And in the past, we've had failures where the idea was great. They had an internal person develop it who didn't really do a good job, and then the product fails. So this is a new product. This is this product called Bop It. Ironically, it was a big hit last year. Basically, it's got this thing where you pop it out, and then you're supposed to pop those buttons in time before it's like
whack-a-mole, maybe?
It's a whack-a-mole type thing, right? And then you're trying to pop all these, and then you have to hit this reset button to pop them back out, which is sort of what the IP is. Right. So, and now it's turned into baby products that we're doing as well, where we've got this concept of how to use. So this was, see how this reacts to the colors. So this idea of Bop It had already existed without electronics, but I had the relationship with the company doing it, pitched them on this new idea of how to make an electronic game out of these little Bop Its, and it was a big hit. We did all the programming and all the, our office did most of the work, got paid for the work, but licensed the concept. Speaking of patents, the reason I bring this product up is that we applied for a patent early, but needed to get the product out right away. And if you want to see the most knockoffs you've ever seen, it became so successful on TikTok that it got knocked off in 2 months. And there are like dozens of knockoffs of this electronic popper. And even though as the patent's going to issue, I doubt we'll ever be able to, that the company, who published it was taken by surprise, and it'll be very difficult to stop all of them. I've never seen anything quite like it. I've never seen a knockoff happen that quickly. So I think we're entering a new age where, because of social media, if something's popular and easy to sort of riff off of, it's going to get knocked off very quickly. And your patent, as we were saying in the beginning, if it takes 3 years to issue a solid patent, during those 3 years, they just take a chance, and then they hope that you won't go after them. Okay, we'll cease and desist, but they already made a bunch of money off your idea.
Right. So is it not the mindset maybe of, okay, if it's an easy knockoff, we're going to wait till we get an issued patent before we actually bring out the product? I know timing is, you can hit
3 years
that way.
3 years in the toy industry, you would just be assuming someone's going to do your idea sooner. Yeah. You can, but I'd say that, boy, that's, then and if you make that decision on, like I said, on every product, you're not going to have hits with all of them. So it's almost impossible to guess correctly. And, I'm sure some people, it's almost easier if you just have 1 or 2 ideas and you patent them and you just go for it. But, the odds are that you may just be sitting on a patent that you paid for that didn't succeed.
All right, and this is an interesting question. So I know typically, like you said, it seems like maybe the company, they will kind of, and this kind of works across the board, just maybe in corporate America, where sometimes, say, an engineer at a company, they come up with an idea and they may be involved a little bit at the beginning, and afterwards they kind of don't hear anything maybe for a few years, and next thing you know, they get some type of maybe $1,000 compensation or a bonus or whatever, plus some a plaque or whatever saying that you have been awarded on this thing that you invented 2-3 years ago that you maybe forgot about. Or from your perspective, are you guys involved in some way, at least early on in that patent process, and then maybe not so much later on? Or I guess, how does that work in a toy industry?
Yeah. Well, when we license an idea to a toy company, we're simply agreeing to assign the patent temporarily to them. It's still in my name as the inventor. And if the product terminates, then it reverts to me, but they will typically pay for it because they're the ones manufacturing it and indemnifying against, issues with manufacturing and supporting the product and shipping it and safety and all those things. So the inventor can apply and hold the patent. And certainly if you guess right and have full control of a patent, it's always better, but not, over 30 years, as I said, there's no way we could have patented everything and predicted which ones would be valuable and which ones wouldn't.
Yeah.
It's impossible. Some people will do, they'll do a provisional patent just because it's not as expensive, just in case something takes off.
Yep.
But what we do is we typically just have a toy company apply and handle it all and at their expense.
Yeah.
And we just supply the information, the drawings, we cooperate and get named in it, but we're not leading that usually, although we have on a couple.
And that makes sense. Like you said, it can be an expensive process to try to patent things. And if you're doing this thing at mass, it'll be almost impossible. It's going to cost you a lot of money to try to get a patent on every single thing. So maybe to pass that cost off to the toy company is worthwhile. I'm actually surprised that the industry doesn't have more design patents because those kind of protect the ornamental feature of it, which seems like it has some importance with different things. It would be easier to grant compared to maybe a utility.
I agree. I've sometimes said just go for design, and they do both usually. And the bigger one is copyright. If you can get a copyright on the name, and the name is the product or the brand, that's why Bop It, people can try and do other things, but it's why it's so valuable for a marketing company to protect their IP in the actual brand name is more valuable than the invention often.
Right. No, you're absolutely right on that one. So then with the sand claw, I know you had deal with the Bop It. Did the sand claw go through a similar thing with maybe the patent early on and maybe have some issues with that?
Yeah. So I don't have it with me, but if you look it up, the sand claw was this idea that I had when I was actually doing some consulting work, working on some digging toys for kids. And I came up with this idea of putting this thing over your hand that fit ergonomically that you could dig like this, just instead of your fingernails in the sand. And it was this cool one-piece blow molded, industrial design-y looking thing. And I didn't know that many companies and found this little company that liked it, and they agreed to pay me for it, and they started to pay me royalties on it. Very, very low volume, but it started to take off, and I thought they were going to, like other companies I'd sort of started to work with, go apply for the patent, and they didn't. As a design patent would have been very valuable because it was all design. There's very little but design in the thing. And they didn't. And then they started getting knocked off. And then they wrote me a letter at one point, said, sorry, we can't compete with all these knockoffs. They're half the price. They're not paying a royalty, and what do you want to do about it? And there was nothing we could do because the product had already been publicly shown, as you know, before the patent was applied for, et cetera. So it just became, as I say, shareware. I wish I had had the patent that had lasted many years. But on the other hand, the product grew and grew, and there's been millions of them made and millions of people have enjoyed it. And at the end of the day, I'm saying, well, maybe it was sort of like my first invention was an offering to the invention gods. Show me that this is possible. Show me that you can create an idea that spreads. And it certainly proved that to me, even way before, Bop It. This is several years before. So I think you have to take, this whole process is you're going to make mistakes and try to learn from them. And in that case, I still today, when I see one of them, a little bit of I don't think anyone realizes that was my original invention. And then, but taking pride in it, that I see kids playing with them on the beach and I kind of smile and think, wow, that's pretty amazing that it's because it wasn't protected, it proliferated bigger. So I get to feel good about that. And luckily I had other successes, so I could afford to.
Right. Oh, wow, wow, wow. Oh, yeah, and I would imagine, like, just even your process is almost like in a music industry, just creating a hit where if you know, just being able to create hit after hit after hit, that has to be a good feeling, as a creator.
Yeah, if you can. I mean, that's a great analogy. Why is it that, you'll hear a band has a song, why didn't they do more good songs? There's something kind of mystical about it,
Yep.
ideas and songs, and we don't know, and it's such a hard to predict thing. You can do lots of testing, you can do all that stuff, but there's something wonderful about an idea that just pops out. That's the right time, the right idea, all that stuff.
Yep.
So I think we all dream of that still, just like a songwriter dreams of having that hit song.
That's cool, man. So I have a couple because I want to be mindful of your time. I know we're
Yeah.
a little bit over an hour here. Just maybe a few more questions that I wanted to ask. Again, you got started in the toy industry back in the 80s. So
Mhm.
compared to it being 2023 today and this technology, I'm sure Apple phones and all that stuff wasn't around back then. How has that
Mhm.
changed things, especially with the seems like it's a lot more like audio from like, okay, you're singing and this virtual reality, which maybe wasn't as big back in the 80s and the 90s coming up compared to
Sure.
what it is today.
Well, it's an interesting question because one, Bop It and a lot of my games evolved from a handheld electronic game industry, which was Game Boy, all those things, all of that, right? The PlayStations and things were obviously, Nintendo was out there, and it was still a conversation then. Is wow, are these video games going to kill the sales of physical toys? So I always tried to do something with my toys that was physical that couldn't be done digitally.
Mhm.
That's what Bop It was directly,
Yeah.
a concept that was don't push buttons, make it something you can't do.
Right.
Now, what's happening with virtual reality and with, controllers and things, and is that now you can be more three-dimensional with your gestures and your hands. Some way Bop It was the first gesture recognition game. If you think of it that way, it recognized your gestures. That's what we and all these other
Yeah.
products have become. It just sort of says to me, my philosophy is it's changed. There's so much more digital, so much more with the phone, so much. You're just competing for entertainment hours.
Yep.
And if you're entertained fully playing Candy Crush on your phone or whatever, you won't have time to go to the store and buy a Bop It, or go
Right.
to Amazon and buy a Bop It, or you won't care. It's definitely had an impact, and yet that's part of why certain products I focus on. That the Pop It, the Perplexus, right? As you were bringing up this kind of experience, this is a Perplexus where you run a ball through a maze. If you think about all of the things they have in common, is they all have you doing something physical that be very. It's just not the same feeling, or it's not a digital thing. And plus, creating objects that look cool in your home. I like having things that you leave out, put it on a stand. You're kind of this sculptural thing has to have a value beyond just its play to me to exist today. And so I think that's a challenge. And you can still, there still is like I have a new product out that's like, speaking of video games, do you know what Beat Saber is? Have you ever played Beat
Oh,
Saber?
I haven't
Have you
played that.
seen it where like you put on VR headset and this light comes at you and you've got to swing a saber this way or
I
this?
have seen it. Yep.
You see it. It's really cool. So this is inspired by that video game.
Huh.
It's a product called Beat Blast with the little company, well, not that little, Goliath. So you'll see that when the blue light comes down, it's sort of simulating what you see in VR. When the blue light comes down, you swing downward. When the red light comes down, you swing sideways. And you try it. Let's see if it comes across on video.
Okay.
So
Right. Yep.
now it gets much harder, of course. Oh, so you're trying to, ah, so it starts to have a beat, and you've
Yeah.
got left, right, hit the back, and thrust. I forgot to do the push. So it's very Bop It like if you think
Yeah.
of it, because it's physical, right? I'm doing something physical.
Yeah.
And, so looking at opportunities like that is, I'd say, what I'm doing now with games is staying with the physical
Okay.
experience, but trying to play off of what is happening on trends. And I guess I believe there'll always be a market, but really the answer to your question is it's a much smaller market because
Okay.
people are doing so much digital that a big hit today just doesn't sell. Uh, Typically, it doesn't sell as many as before. So you just have to be willing to accept that.
Yeah, and now that makes sense. That seems like that's maybe across the board in every industry. It's
Mhm.
like kind of the hits that is not the same as it maybe once was prior to everything going digital. So
Right.
then I guess maybe my last question, and we had maybe talked about it a little bit offhand as far as the Bop It for good with the Bop It button.
Yeah.
You talk a little bit about that, and then kind of what maybe uh went into kind of the Bop It button and kind of bringing that out.
Yeah. Thanks for asking about that. This is the Bop It button, right? It's a very deceptively challenging game. Um, it was meant to be a thing you could put on your desk, as sort of like you love Bop It as a kid, but
Yeah.
this challenge of can you make a Bop It with one button? So let's see if you can hear what it says.
Bop it, 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 bop it,
Of course, it's not going to do don't Bop It.
bop it, bop it. Don't bop it. Yeah, no. I think don't bop it. Don't bop it. I
Yeah, it was
thought we
crisp.
were clear on that.
It was crisp.
Score 11.
So this starts out very easy with one button, just getting you in the rhythm.
Yeah.
Then it goes to don't Bop It. Then it'll say do Bop It, do not Bop It, do Bop It, do. You're like with hesitate. Then it has all these rhythms, and basically I put in 25 years of sounds to kind of celebrate the last 25 years of Bop It. And it goes like, it's one of the hardest ones to beat because you start to think it's easy and then it messes with your mind. You get
Right.
confused. Super fun. And as a matter of fact, I just created what I call the big bad Bop It chain for the holidays because most people, I did it as sort of a joke, and you can basically put it in there, right? And now if you're a Bop It fan,
I like that.
not only can you wear it, you can bop and walk, like you can literally play it while
Yeah,
you
yeah,
walk,
yeah.
Bop it.
if you want to. But it's kind of, it was more just like
Score 1.
a thing I wanted to do to celebrate. And I have it in a box that sort of thanks all the people that helped with Bop It over the years. And there's a lot of surprises in it. Most people who play it are so surprised. The reviews are like 5 stars. The right people are playing it. It's not huge like volume, but
Yep.
it was just sort of the first time I've done something not with a publisher. I went ahead and paid for it myself, got them all made. And the reason was that throughout the years, people that are blind have loved Bop It because they can play it because it's audio. It's texture and audio, right? Like you can feel these things. Your eyes can be closed and you can play it just as well. So to celebrate, my wife and I started Bop It for good with the idea that we would use Bop It for good causes and charities. And the first one is Lighthouse for the Blind in San Francisco, where we're donating a Bop It button. Every time someone buys one of these, we give one to them. And then they can use it in their programs, but they also use it, they resell them to the community because they have a store. So it's kind of a way that they can raise money and be part of the Bop It story, which they've been, because a lot of people in the blind community know and love Bop It, and allows them to play with people that can see. So you have little kids. One of the biggest things is friends. Their games allow you to make friends. And so a game that lets you play with someone who can see and someone who can't see, now they get to meet each other through a game they might never have interacted before. They didn't know what to do together. So that seemed like a really worthy cause for us to support, and we're still supporting it and going to do much more with them. But that's sort of why the Bop It button came about, and Bop It for good. That's our mission. Our goal is the next step. So when you listen to this, there's a lot of different voices in it that you unlock. I had auditioned people on TikTok to be in it, and they got their voice in as sort of a reward.
Really?
Yeah. So if you go further, you'll hear voices, and that was to prove that if we put in, I can put in 20, 50 voices in it and have people do cameos. So my goal is to find celebrities who have a big reach with their voice to their fans. And if they have a cause, that they want to support, like a football team or baseball team or someone that says, we have 50,000 people in the stadium, and if we want to support our child foundation or whatever, they usually have a cause, I'll work with them to create one with their voices, because their fans want to hear their voices.
Right? That makes
And if
sense.
they can sell 5,000 of those or something and make money for their cause, that's what Bop It for Good wants to do in the future, is uses a Bop It, and mainly the Bop It button is designed to allow you to do kind of these cool little things with their logo on it and all that stuff. So that's really what Bop It for Good is, what our goal is, and we hope we'll know how well that works.
Oh, that's pretty cool. And it's even cooler that it's going towards a great cause, which is important for sure. And just celebrating 25 years of Bop It in that way kind of brings the thing full circle for sure.
Thank you. Yeah, I mean, our cause being Bop with a lighthouse for the blind is one thing, but I think the key to the celebrity, let's say, lend your voice for your cause, is really the anthem. Like, I'm not asking you to even know or support my cause. I'm telling you that if you have a worthy cause and you have a big enough audience that you can think you can sell enough of these to raise money for that cause, I'm interested in donating my time, my wife and I, to make it happen. It makes Bop It, sheds a good light on Bop It. But more than that, it's a way to make money for a lot of causes, not just our cause. And so I'd much rather hear what's important to a celebrity who gets hit up all the time for, hey, can you do this thing for us? Hey, it's like, I want to do something for you that we can do together. That's the goal.
No, I like that. And that makes perfect sense. So no, I think I'll I guess let you share any final words you have for us today. Again, I appreciate the time. This was a dream come true for me in many ways as well. And again, just appreciate the time to kind of sit down and chat with me about Bop It and some of the other cool toys that you've come out with over the years. But I guess kind of leaving the audience, do you have any maybe final words or I guess advice to give as relates to just inventing and creating that they take from it?
I don't know. Well, first of all, David, thank you for finding me. And I probably have a lot more questions about how you got into intellectual property and coming at that and deciding that was a field that you were interested in. And I really admire that you've taken a path and now you're finding creative ways to reach out to people and learn more. And I think that's the example you're setting, which is be curious and be, your creativity comes through with what you're doing now. Find people to talk to, how to expand your business. And I think that's kind of universal, for anything. You're not, just because I'm a toy inventor doesn't make me more creative than someone who's a patent attorney. Right. It's just how you channel it. And it's the commonality is keeping alert, listening to everyone, really picking it up, taking time to digest it, be real with yourself. Be a child in your enthusiasm, but also then make sure that you're checking, respect the advice of others along the way, but don't just take their advice. Like, it's that kind of process that you'll hear, right? You can't just because someone is famous and said something to yours experience doesn't mean it's right, but it does mean you should listen and consider it. So I think it's just a combination of, dream big, be childlike in your curiosity, but then be real about how to make a plan as an adult. Just sort of, I think that sums it up for me.
No, I think that's I like everything you just said, and definitely gonna have said that better. So yeah, for sure. Hopefully, the audience, I know for sure that they will have gotten something out of it. You have dropped a lot of nuggets and jewels over the course of almost the last hour and a half here, and Until next time.
All right. Thanks, David. Really, really enjoyed it. Talk to you soon.
Excellent.